Alright, hello everyone, hope everyone's doing well. So I recently saw a garden interview between two characters that I do like called Roosh V and E. Michael Jones. Now I discovered E. Michael Jones a long time ago and he didn't have much of an audience at that point, and I thought he definitely deserved a bigger audience. He's pretty good, he sticks to his guns, he's not scared to talk about grabblers, the alien situation. As far as Catholics go, he's pretty good in all those areas, but he does say some pretty crazy shit, as most Christians do, and he's got a few weird opinions, but mostly he's pretty good. I like the guy, I like his personality, I also like Roosh, I like his sense of humor. But Roosh also has his flaws, as when most people find Christianity or something, or they find the errors of their hedonistic ways and they go looking for meaning, there's a tendency to become a bit of a hypocrite and to see the people who engage in the lifestyle that you used to engage in as immoral, even satanic. And they lose perspective that that was them only a few weeks ago. And yeah, that's a common trend we see with born-again and late-in-life converts to Christianity. Because Christianity has this high moral ground, or at least it professes to. I see that there is a divide between Christians, atheists, and pagans. In a negative light, Christians are seen as ignorant slaves who worship a foreign god and believe that man is inherently a fallen creature who needs to be forgiven by God. It is a religion based upon guilt for one's own existence. It is also seen as a religion that wants to conquer the world and all the nations within it. I would say it's seen as the religion of ultimate hypocrisy. Atheists are seen as godless fools who believe that creation was some kind of accident and therefore life has no ultimate meaning. They are materialists and ultimately nihilists, although most of them would deny this. Pagans are seen as maniacs who believe in stupid fairy tales and worship silly childish gods who do not exist. It is also often said that a society cannot be organized under paganism, and that most people just flat out reject it in the modern day. It is a thing of the past. It is also said that it inevitably leads to mass orgies and human sacrifice. Usually by Christians. It's like a Christian mantra that paganism leads to orgies and human sacrifice. I think this divide is largely superficial and completely unnecessary, as no side can show empirically that their beliefs are true. All systems rely on faith, and without faith you simply believe in nothing. You are a nihilist. Some people believe science has all the answers. Science exists to find facts about the material world. When you start trying to combine religion and science, you'll end up with scientism, which is a true mockery of both fields. I've always seen the average Christian as the height of ignorance, but the system has prevailed, so there must be something to it. The hypocrisy displayed by the average Christian is also quite something to behold. That and the self-righteousness and the need to impose it upon others. There is also the upholding of God's law and constantly imposing it upon people who are not interested. Christians also believe that they have the moral high ground even while committing the worst atrocities. So there was a great clip in this interview with Roosh and E. Michael Jones, who I call E. Michael Pones. And they were talking that, this typical thing, Christians mocking pagans for the things they believe in and all this. it's always mockery, but the mockery is based on pure ignorance. This is a great clip because to me, it just looks so ridiculous. But this is how the average Christian thinks, and I think this level of ignorance on display is a good thing, because hopefully Christians look at this and look at themselves and be like, yeah, this is fucking stupid. We're being stupid here, mocking pagans.
But what you're seeing here is the evaporation of Protestantism. It's simply has lost its hold on the people of Scandinavia, for example. So, when I did you got a guy like Henrik at Red Ice Radio, very intelligent guy, who just feels that it's not persuasive, so he's become a white guy. And there's this kind of white nationalism. But then he invites me on the Christmas show, and there's Hedrick, the pagan, the neo-pagan, wearing his Santa Claus hat. And he and Lana are talking about memories of Christmas, and then they want me to talk about it. And I'm feeling a little bit uneasy because it's not memories for me. I mean, I celebrate Christmas every year. It's an ongoing thing. But when you've cut yourself off from it, then you have this nostalgia for this past that can only be restored through Christianity. I mean, you're not going to do Thor and Freya, and that's not going to restore it. That's going to lead you into human sacrifice, which is precisely what that movie, Midsummer, is about.
So they're talking about Christmas, and he's saying Henrik the pagan wearing a Christmas hat and talking about Christmas and all this. It's like, well, listen, Christians, what the fuck does Christmas have to do with Christianity? What does Easter have to do with Christianity? Or Halloween, for that matter, or any of the other festivals that people actually practice? Christmas is Yule. It's Yule. It's got nothing to do with Christianity at all. That was written in later. Yule is the winter solstice, which is direct paganism, right? It's sun worship and tracking the movements of nature, the seasons. It has fuck all to do with Jesus, who, Jesus has been accused of being representing the sun. And in that case, in esoteric Christianity, where you actually look below the surface at what maybe they're talking about, if they're talking about Christmas being the death of Jesus, as in the death of the sun, well, that would be the winter solstice, wouldn't it? Which has got fuck all to do with Christianity. It's a purely pagan event, and most of the Western world still celebrates it. It is at the absolute core of our being and of Mother Nature and our understanding of it. All of these things are pagan. No one gives a shit about any of the real Christian feast days, like probably Passover. Europeans choose pagan festivals and just call them Christian so as not to be massacred by the Christians. E. Michael Jones then goes on to mock Thor and Freya, and Roosh laughs along. Well, E. Michael Jones is always going on about the importance of Logos and how Jesus is the personification of Logos. Well, you idiot, Freya is a personification of Logos. Another word for Freya might be Mother Nature. Mother Nature is Logos. Believing in, yes, and that's right, and then believing in these things, E. Michael Jones says, believing in Thor and Freya will inevitably lead you to human sacrifice. What? This is ridiculous. As he would say, this is preposterous. It is preposterous. Believing in Mother Nature, will lead you to human sacrifice. Can we explain the steps between that? Because I think there's a lot of people out there, including Christians, who believe in the concept of Mother Nature, the logos inherently built into the organic world, that will lead you to human sacrifice. How? Why? And then again, what? Human sacrifice? What, like burning witches at the stake? See, again with this Christian hypocrisy. How many witches were burned at the stake for Christian ignorance? So, I think this human sacrifice thing largely comes from paganism that was practiced by people such as the Babylonians, the Phoenicians, maybe some of those Aztec head choppers in South America there, the heart rippers. So all these serpent worshipping head choppers, right? They were human sacrifice type people, not so much the Europeans. Interestingly enough, those Babylonians and Phoenicians that were all into blood ritual and ripping people's hearts out and shit, and Baal worship, those people became the Jews, right? And Christianity comes from these people. And there are blood rituals in Christianity, all right? When a Catholic drinks from the chalice, the cup with wine, they believe that it is the blood of Christ. And any true Catholic will tell you that it is not wine. After the sacrament of the Eucharist, that wine becomes the blood of Christ, and then they eat his flesh. That is a blood ritual. I'd love to see you fucking talk your way out of that. It's a blood ritual that is practiced, that was originally practiced back in those pagan days of the Babylonians and the Phoenicians and people such as that. And you Christians still do that shit. Pagans drink mead and things such as this. Christians drink blood. And then there's the Santa hat, right? What the fuck is Christian about Santa or a Santa hat or the Easter Bunny, right? None of this stuff's Christian, but all these Christians practice it. I don't know what the fuck Christians think they're doing, but it's all pagans. It's all pagan stuff, and they all really like it. It's these fucking Christians, right? An interesting thing about Santa. Now, I'm just theorizing here. I'm just putting stuff out there. I'm not saying this is absolute truth, but this is all very interesting. Now, if we look at Santa, that contains the same letters as the word Satan. Satan means truth in Sanskrit. So, it's Christians that believe Satan is such a bad guy and that but they worship Santa on Christmas Day, this mystical guy from the north. So what do we know about Satan? What everyone usually associates with Satan is that he is a red man with horns and mystical powers, right? That's Satan. That describes Satan. Well, who is Santa? What do we associate with Santa? We associate a red man, right? The red suit. Red man, reindeer horns, and you might think that's a bit of a stretch, but I'll get to that in a sec. Red man, reindeer horns, and mystical powers. We have Satan, red man with horns and mystical powers. Santa, a red man with reindeer horns and mystical powers. These are the main things we would associate with both characters. That probably leaves more questions than answers. But if we go through paganism, the number of horned gods out there and gods that would relate directly to all this are extremely numerous. We have Cernunnos, god of the Celts, with directly related to reindeer type horns. Definitely the deer and the stag is directly related to Cernunnos, who is a representation of Logos, a masculine representation of Logos in Celtic paganism. We'll have the Greeks have the horn god Pan, who is the same god only under the Greek tradition. There's also the Green Man, who is the same character that has survived for thousands of years, even within Christian churches. I believe there's a famous Green Man at Roslin Chapel in Scotland. Mercury to the Romans, Odin to the Nords, although Odin did not have horns, but it's the same character. Also Hermes, Herne the Hunter, to the Anglos, who eventually became Robin Hood. Yes, this character has survived in so many forms through so many traditions. It seems Christianity knows nothing of this. I would say there is nothing in this world that surpasses Christian ignorance. The hypocrisy of a born-again Christian or a late-in-life convert. They immediately attack people and call them satanic for engaging in the sort of behavior that the newly awakened Christian was engaging in only 2 weeks before. All fun is now satanic, and all non-believers must be cleansed with fire. They lose all perspective. They turn their self-loathing outside onto others. They project their guilt onto others. All the things they are ignorant of are now satanic. Images are satanic, music is satanic, sex is satanic, alcohol is satanic, etc., etc., etc. What they call, and then now Crowley's satanic, right? Because he says, do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt. And all Christians just say, well, you can't just go around doing whatever you want. Well, it doesn't say that, does it? It says, do what thou wilt. How often do you use the word wilt? That should stand out to you, right? Wilt. Now, I would say that Crowley really fucked up writing this. He should have assumed that people were morons and then he had to really spell it out for them. And writing do what thou wilt will be interpreted as do whatever you want by every fucking Christian on the planet, because they're not interested in looking into what the fuck that statement actually means. I'll go into that in a future video, but it's Christian ignorance that makes things satanic, not the reality of the situation. So wilt is not want, you stupid fucks. It's a different word. Wilt is not want. It has more to do with will, which is not want. Even a Christian should understand that. Christians are also not willing to admit that they ultimately do the things that they want to do. Alan Watts talked a lot about this. Basically, that is what we all do. Ultimately, it is the Christian's own personal intellect and emotion that chooses the religion, nothing else. Same for all of us. Even if you seek to do God's will, that is your choice. And your reasoning powers that interpret what God's will is, even if it is written in a Bible. You'll notice that Christians reject the will of God as written about in the Quran. It is their reason that enabled them to do this. Either way, these internal disputes are mostly based off pure ignorance, and it would be good to see all this shit put to rest, but I will not hold my breath. Our enemies have lumped us all together anyway, and it might actually be this pressure that forces us to grow and learn to realize the truth. That our beliefs are our own, not God's.